All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's finish up with the last section here in Chapter 9. Discuss some more stuff about extinction for you. And so how have we, as a society, started to counteract this problem of protecting species over time? And so there's been a lot of international treaties that have helped to reduce the trading of these endangered species. And the first main one came out in 1975, and it's called CITES. And so a Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species. And so it made it illegal to trade in these products. Now, it created a black market for them, but it greatly reduced it. And on this list that they created, they listed 900 different species that cannot be traded. And no parts of them are allowed to be traded. So you can't own the ivory of this, or you can't own the, whatever it may be. And a lot of it is Eastern medicine kind of stuff that people want to trade in. It has a lot of value. And so 900 different species you can't. 172 countries signed it and agreed to do it. The problem is it's really hard to enforce, especially if there's countries that aren't following along. It's hard to kind of fight that internationally, and so that's one of the problems with it. It's a great program and stuff, but it does have some problems with enforcement. And so as a result, there's probably only about 10%. Just think of how small that number is. 10% of the illegal trades in the U.S. are caught. And that's just the United States, where we have more resources than most countries. And so, great idea, but in application, it hasn't been as successful as it probably should be, or we wish it would be. Within the United States walls, though, we have probably the greatest, most far-reaching environmental law in history, called the Endangered Species Act. The ESA, the Endangered Species Act, has probably had more impact on more things in the United States than any environmental law in history. It originally came out in 1973, and over time it's actually altered or changed several times. But the overall goal is pretty easy. Identify and protect endangered species in the United States. And abroad. The abroad's a little trickier, but in the United States for sure. And so it makes it illegal for Americans to engage in hunting, trading, killing, collecting any kind of endangered or threatened species. It also forbids federal agencies to carry out or even fund projects that would jeopardize them. So they can, the government can't do anything that could create any problem for a species that would result in its extinction. And so those were the two major premises behind the original creation of it, and it is a far-reaching document. What has it accomplished, this document? Well, it's done a couple things. More than half of all the species on the list have become stable or improving. 99% of all the listeds are still alive. So you can't argue with that. What are some problems with it? Well, it's not really funded as well as it should be. Or some people would argue it has a very small budget. Only the species that face really bad threats to extinction usually get listed. So some people argue they're listed too late. And then it can take decades to recover that. So if you could list them earlier, some people argue that would be better for protecting them. Some other changes that have been suggested for the Endangered Species Act: increase the funding, develop more intense recovery programs more quickly for organisms, and then create core habitats for those creatures so they can exist, and you can always have a pocket of them on the planet. Other ways to solve the extinction problem: humans have started creating gene banks where we collect samples of genes, genetics, seeds of creatures to protect and take care of them. Botanical gardens do a good job of kind of creating a place where there's lots of different biodiversity. So gene banks, where we actually store, use them under frozen situations, and then botanical gardens are examples that take care of a lot of different things. In addition, we have zoos and aquariums, will also serve the purpose of protecting endangered species. When you guys go down to Denver, you go to both those locations and you'll see a variety of endangered species with long-term goals of reintroducing them into the wild in some cases, or preserving individuals for a long time. Other ways that we've attempted to help out endangered species and preserve them: we've done egg polling, where we take eggs out of the nest and we raise and rear them and then place them back in the nest to ensure that they're taken care of. We've done actual breeding, captive breeding of all kinds of different things that have helped recover those processes. We've artificially inseminated creatures to try to create more pregnancies. We've transferred embryos from one species or one animal to another because we know that one doesn't give as good a birth as the other one, or things along those lines. We use incubators to help raise their young, and then we do a lot of cross fostering, which means you and over here, let's get together and make sure we take care of those things and make sure that the babies are taken care of the way they should, or we're creating babies that are good for gene pool. Generally speaking, you could apply this rule, though, to lots of different things in environmental science, but it definitely applies when it comes to extinction as far as the books is concerned. It's called the precautionary principle. And it basically says, better to be safe than sorry. If you had to choose, err on the side of safety or caution. Protect the animal. Is it going to cost us some money? Maybe. Protect it anyway. That's its logic, okay? As soon as there's primary evidence, make an effort to fix it then. Don't wait until the last minute. So what do they use this for? They use it in arguments of preservation of ecosystems as a whole, as well as individual species. So that's the end of Chapter 9. That's all the goodies in a nutshell. Stay tuned, and we'll move on to the next stuff later on.